Alright, I'm gonna touch again in this video on the whole Assassin's Creed Shadow discourse, because in my last video I just made fun of the whole thing. And honestly, there's nothing else I want to talk about at the moment. I know the Elden Ring DLC came out, but honestly, I haven't played Elden Ring, so I'm not gonna talk about it. I can't talk about something I haven't played. So, yeah, but I mean, in my last video about this topic, I was making fun of the situation, but I don't know. Some people got buttered for whatever reasons, and also you get the usual racism, like complaints because you make fun of black people, or you're a racist. But honestly, I still think it's a dumb choice in terms of when it comes to the whole narrative. But I mean, commercially, it makes sense because it generates outrage. It's free engagement for them. Putting a black protagonist in a Japanese in Japan, it's an easy way to get free headlines, free discussions online. So that was, I mean, smart on their part, you will say. It's probably the most common sense. It's a very it was a very predictable choice for them. So I'm not gonna call them dumb for doing this. Actually, it was kind of smart on their part. But the problem with this choice is that people have been anticipating a game, an Assassin's Creed that takes place in Japan for a long time, and then you come out with a black protagonist. Yeah, I know there's a female protagonist, but honestly, in the last Assassin's Creeds, from what I've seen, quite a few of them had a guy and a girl, and they were both native from the country that the game takes place in. But yeah, in this one, no. In this one, the guy is a black guy because because Ubisoft, because wokeness, because free money for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, but it's not just that. The whole thing is dumb because nowadays the studios are getting paid to put diversity in games. That's a pretty well-known fact at this point. There are studios, I mean, there are investment funds that give money to studios if they push a certain narrative, a certain political agenda, certain characteristics in their games. Yeah, and these studios will get money from these investment funds. That's why you're seeing all these retarded inclusion even in games where it really shouldn't have any place, honestly. It's like putting black guys in medieval Europe as knights. It's the same fucking thing. But yeah, but to get to the point, I don't have a problem with them putting this guy in the game. Like I was saying, my problem, why I think it's dumb, is that from all the important Japanese characters in his history, they could make protagonists like Hattori. For example, I think I saw a screenshot where one of the previous writers was talking about the original plot for this game, which was being written years ago, I think. And they were saying the original protagonist was supposed to be a Tori Hanzo. But yeah, then that got scrapped, and yeah. Like, from all the important historical characters, they chose pretty much a nobody. Because Yasuke is a nobody. He was in Japan for like barely 2 years, from what I've read. And I mean, it's unclear if he was a samurai. Honestly, there's no proof for or definitely against it. So it's whatever. That's not the main problem. The main problem is that they chose him as a protagonist, because out of all the big historical figures that Japan had, he is the protagonist. It's clearly done, like I said, for free marketing, for investment funds giving them money, and also for wokeness, because Ubisoft is quite a woke company at this point, but they are not the only one, of course. I think it would have been better if they made the base game with a male and a female, both Japanese. It would have been better, and then they could have made a DLC with Yasuke as protagonist. Kind of like they made. I don't remember. I think they made a DLC for Valhalla. I think it was with another character that in another area. I don't remember exactly, but I think they made something like this, and they could have made it with this game too. They could have made a DLC starring Yasuke. It would have been okay. After the main game, they could have made like an extra DLC. But no, they just said no. We're making Yasuke the main character. The problem is, like I said, it's dumb. It's dumb because it feels forced. It doesn't feel genuine. No matter how people who like this choice say, it feels forced. And it's funny because then I had people in the comments saying, "Oh, what about Neo? What about Neo?" I mean, that just shows they're being clueless, because Team Ninja. Neo was made by Team Ninja. Team Ninja, if we count the Itagaki era, the period where Itagaki was managing the studio, was leading the studio. So from the mid-90s to the mid-2000s, let's say, they made 4 Ninja Gaiden games. Itagaki was not there for the last 2 Ninja Gaiden games, but it's whatever. That's not the point. 4 Ninja Gaiden games, and those games had Japanese protagonists. Ninja Gaiden 1, 2, and 3 had Ryu Hayabusa, of course, which is of Japanese descent. And the 4th game was Yaiba, which also had a Japanese protagonist, another Japanese ninja, which was a rival to Ryu. Then they also had the Dead or Alive series, in which the ninjas, so Ryu, Ayane, Kazumi, and Ayate, played a very big role in that series. They were pretty much the protagonists. And they also had the Dead or Alive Extreme Volleyball, I think it was called. I mean, it was pretty much the sexy game with the girls. So they had quite a few games with with Asian and Japanese protagonists. And then with their next franchise, they thought, well, maybe let's try with a different protagonist this time. And they had this the William. What was his name? I don't remember. William, but he was an Irishman that went to Japan and decided to make him the protagonist of their fantasy game Neo. So they decided pretty much for one game to have that guy as a protagonist, after they had quite a lot of games with Japanese protagonists. So this is the difference between Ubisoft, that decides to pretty much have in their first game that takes place in Japan a black guy, a nobody as protagonist, as opposed to Team Ninja, which made a lot of games with Japanese protagonists, and then they decided to try something different for one game. And the funny thing is that nobody ever paid anyone to put people of European descent in games. Nobody. There's no fund no investment fund, as far as I know, that ever paid anybody to put white people in games, Europeans in games. Which you cannot say for blacks or whatever other minority, quote unquote, nowadays. That's all difference, because it doesn't feel genuine. Nowadays, when there's a black protagonist, it doesn't feel genuine because studios are getting paid for this shit. All the wokeness that is being pushed, you don't know if it's genuine, if the studio actually wanted to make a game with that protagonist. That's the problem. It doesn't feel genuine. Because if it was genuine, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like I said, if they wanted to make a DLC, or if they wanted to put other playable characters in the game, and Yasuke was one of them, it's whatever. I don't mind. But I don't mind either way. I think I don't know if the game will flop or will sell fine. I don't give a shit. I just think, like I said, it's a like pandering choice. It was not a genuine choice. It was pandering for the reason I had mentioned. It was dumb. So there is no comparison. Team Ninja was never paid to put William in the game, so it's not a comparison that stands. And I mean, if Japanese studios want to make a few games with the European protagonists, whatever. What's the problem? If they will do what sells. If something doesn't sell, they won't do it. That's how it works. So that's it. I think people who criticize this choice have a point. So that's the thing for me. And I mean, this strategy has worked quite well for them, because I haven't followed exactly their malpractices with this game, but from what I've seen, the price of the game is quite high. There's DLC shit, microtransactions, I think the usual stuff. That's secondary, but also the black protagonist also covered up the discussion pertaining to those issues. He covered them up quite nicely. So like I said, the whole you don't want to have a black protagonist, whatever. No, if it doesn't make sense, no. Especially in feudal Japan, like there was one guy that maybe did something, and you make a whole game out of him. It's just pandering. It's just retarded pandering. And if you cannot see this, well, it's your problem.